Sketchy Al and Chee! Hello! So, I've been thinking about this subject matter for a few weeks ago. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then all the chaos happened lately.
Yeah, it's been pretty nuts.
Yeah, so I feel like we should vent about it, because why not?
Pretty good timing.
I think it's a good idea to talk about our personal stories with police officers, the good and the bad. So, I'm thinking of starting off with Chee's helpful cop story that ended up pretty cray-cray.
So there was a time where I was actually trying to catch a flight for a convention over in Atlanta, and one of my tires blew out because I slightly bumped the edge of the rumble strip trying to change lanes, and my car slid all the way from the leftmost lane across traffic and then spun out through the dirt and went through a fence. And that was one of the scariest things, and honestly, in my head, all I could think was, shit, please stop, please fucking stop.
Brrr.
Once the car actually came to a stop, my windshield was completely covered in dirt from driving through the shoulder, and oddly my first thought was, why has my radio stopped working? And I had this thought of like, if I turn my car off, is it going to turn back on at all? And I opened the door enough to make sure that I wasn't in the road, and then turned it off, and then started it again, and then realized it was fine, just covered in dust, and I was out in a shoulder, not in any sort of danger. So I turned it off, got out of the car, and my plan was to dust it off, figure out what had happened, and then once I figured out that it was the back left tire that was blown out, I was just going to change it myself, dust off my car, and use the spare tire to get to my flight. But some guy who was on the side pulls over and goes, "Are you hurt? Are you hurt? Are you hurt? Oh my God, you must be hurt." And I told him, no, I'm fine. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to call the cops right now. I need to make sure that you're okay." And I'm like, "I'm perfectly fine. Perfectly fine." And he goes, "No, you're in a daze. You're trying to walk towards the road." And I said to him, "I'm trying to walk towards the road so I can figure out why I blew out a tire and if I did any damage to anything around me." And while I was doing that, I had realized that the reason my radio stopped was because a fence post had ripped out of the ground when I went through a non-barbed wire fence and scraped up across the hood and had cleaved the antenna straight all the way off. And that's why the radio wouldn't work. And so I was telling him, please don't call the cops. Just please don't call it. It's not needed. If you want to help, come down here yourself and change the tire with me. But no. He insisted on calling the cops.
Oy.
And so that period, I go, okay, I'm going to wait, and I'm going to dust off my car, and I start changing my tire, and hopefully the cops won't even show up, because oftentimes they don't. But up comes a sheriff, and I'm thinking, oh God, what am I going to have to do here? This is going to be yet another annoying thing I'm going to have to fill out. And cop comes up and actually asks me, well, what is it that happened? I said, well, one of my tires blew out on the highway, and I had to stop very dramatically and ended up going through this fence, and I'm sorry. If I need to pay for the fence, I'll do so. And he goes, no, that's really sad that the tire blew out. Is there anything I need to do to help you out? And I told him, well, I'm trying to make a flight. I need to get there as quick as possible. If you want to help me change the tire, that'd be great. And he proceeded to actually pull out a much better tire iron out of his trunk than the little crappy one I had.
Nice.
And actually was doing some of the work for me. And it was really helpful. He even had a much more beefy jack to raise the car up a lot faster than the little tiny one that comes with my car.
Right.
And he does tell me, well, I am going to have to fill out a report because you did drive off the road. I am going to have to write you a ticket for distracted or reckless driving. But I'm going to make it disappear.
Nice.
And, I didn't have a whole lot of trust, so I was just hoping that, he wouldn't file it. And while we're changing the tire, up comes another police officer, this one a state police instead of a sheriff. And I have to explain that exact same story while the sheriff is over there changing the tire for me. And tell him all the same stuff. Tire blew out, drove across the road, accidentally took out part of a fence, ended up having to change the tire, need to make a flight. And this guy actually ends up wanting to see what's in my trunk. And so I'm thinking, oh God, this is going to be awful, because I was specifically going to a big nerdy convention. So I had brought a Darth Maul lightsaber. It's exactly the same size and shape as a pipe bomb.
Oh, jeez.
And it came inside a padded box, and it's covered in knobs and doohickeys. And he goes, "What is that?" At this point, I'm like, it's a roughly $600 replica lightsaber from Star Wars The Phantom Menace. I'm going to take it to Atlanta, where there's a giant geeky convention, and the actor Ray Park, who played Darth Maul in the movie, is going to be there. I would like to see if I can get him to pose with it.
Nerd!
And he just gave me this look of, that is so geeky. There's no reason you would make that up.
Geeky!
And so, at this point, he drives off, and a canine unit shows up.
Oh, God.
And I have to explain that same story again.
Oh, God.
And then up comes an ambulance and is like, okay, we need to make sure you're okay. We need to make sure that you don't need any medical support. Do you need to be taken to a hospital right now? No, I'm fine. You know, I don't need your services. And they're like, Are you sure? Are you denying services? We could take you to the hospital right now and get you checked. Are you sure? Yeah, I don't need anything. Go away. And so while I'm doing this, the canine police and the ambulance leaves, and then we get Bernalillo County Police because we're near Albuquerque, and I have to say that same story all over again. And just as I'm finishing saying it all over again, up comes the tribal police, because apparently the land I'd slid into was technically Native American tribal land.
Oh, God damn it.
And so I had to say the same story again and tell them to go away. And at this point, the sheriff has changed my tire all on his own and is basically backing up my story going, yeah, I've already got this on paperwork. Don't log it. And right as the tribal police leaves, yet another sheriff shows up with yet another ambulance.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And at this point, I'm starting to get a little snarky because I've been repeating this story about 6 times and just want to get to my flight on time so I don't have to reschedule all that.
Right.
And so I find out from that police officer that there was actually a rollover, but it was thought to be me. And it wasn't.
Oh, God damn it.
So at this point, the ambulance goes, okay, we need to take your blood pressure and make sure that everything's okay. Are you okay? And at this point, I had just had it. So I stick out my left ring finger, which I had noticed was actually bleeding because it had gotten basically scraped by the turn signal stalk. And I said to the medic, I scraped my finger. Can I have a Band-Aid? No, seriously, I'm fine. Go away.
Oh, I can't believe you said that.
Absolutely did.
Wow.
And it was kind of hilarious watching 2 EMTs go to the ambulance, find a small Band-Aid that looked like one of the ones you buy at Walmart, and wrap my finger professionally and have me sign off of a piece of paper that I had refused treatment and the only thing they had done is give me a Band-Aid.
Wow.
It was really silly. And after that, I finally get to the airport, driving extra slow on my little tiny tire, and I get there with about 10 minutes to spare, go to the convention, have a great time, and when I get back, my car has to get fresh tires because I didn't know this, that apparently all-wheel drive cars have to have all their tires changed at once. I found out this is somewhat of a scam that places pull, but I fell for it. And so after that, we went to the Bernalillo County Police to actually check if they had the ticket on file, because I had a copy of it. And we get to the desk, and they go, that ticket was never filed. It's beyond the statute of limitations of how long that cop had to file it, and you have the only copy. So if you want to keep it for your records, that's fine, but it's actually been dismissed because the cop didn't do his duty at turning it in.
Yes.
And I go, okay, cool. A good cop that stuck to his word that he wrote the ticket for formality, but purposely disposed of the original copy so that it never got filed.
That's awesome. That's great that there are some good ones out there. But unfortunately, there's some really rotten ones out there too. And we saved the best, sadly, actually, worst story for last. Oh, lordy. You want to start on it?
So we were going down to the national monument known as White Sands, which is a beautiful gypsum beach-like setting that's natural sand dunes in the middle of New Mexico. And I don't like driving long distance, and Alicia was tired, so we were actually having one of our friends drive my car. And I told him, the car has expired registration. It only expired 1 day ago, but it is expired. Drive super careful and under the speed limit, because I didn't realize that it was expired due to the fact that it ticked over a day into a new month. And he didn't pay attention to me. And we ended up driving right past a cop who was parked in the middle of the median, and he got a ticket. So he writes a ticket to the driver, one of my friends, for approximately 8 miles an hour over the speed limit, and then he gives me an expired registration ticket. We go about our time down in White Sands, have a great adventure. I go ahead and talk to them and get that ticket dismissed because I had read on the ticket that it said, you have 30 days from the issue date of this ticket to resolve the issue. And so what I had to do was I had to go and actually fax a copy of the paperwork that showed that I had resolved the ticket and the original ticket to the Socorro Police Department. And I received back a fax at that time that said, we have received it. It has been dismissed.
Which is good because Socorro's really far from, where we live. About, good 4 hours.
Approximately.
Yeah, so that's why, it was all taken care of by fax instead of in person and all that business craziness. But, continue.
So after we'd gotten groceries at about 1 a.m. after Alicia's work, I came home and was being tailgated the entire way. And we drove through all sorts of little side streets, taking the most efficient way back to our apartment. And I made sure that I stopped perfectly at every stop sign. I stayed approximately 4 miles under the speed limit, just looking in my mirror going, you ain't got nothing on me, cop. Nothing. Don't mess with me. Why are you following me? The car's not got an expired registration this time. It's got proper insurance. I don't have anything outstanding. You have nothing. Go away. And so right as I was pulling into my apartment going, okay, the cop's finally going to go away because I'm just going to park and take in our groceries and be done with it. He puts on the siren and pulls us over. And I'm going, why? What is there possibly that this cop is doing? And it's frustrating to me because he pulled us over for literally no reason after basically checking my records. And when he pulls us over, I say, why did you pull us over? And he comes to the window and does the stereotypical, do you have any idea why I pulled you over tonight? And I go, no, I don't. I wasn't speeding. Car's registered. I have my insurance right here. Why? And the cop proceeds to say, you have an outstanding warrant for your arrest. At which point my thoughts are, no, I don't. And if so, for what? And he tells me that I have a warrant for failure to appear in court. And I'm going, failure to appear in court? For what? And he says, for a ticket out of Socorro. And I go, okay, this has got to be some misunderstanding. I've handled that. I have the paperwork in my apartment that can prove it. I have the fax that says it, and it's all handled. We can go in together. In fact, if you'd like, you can go ahead with me, or you can go in with Alicia and I will stay here. However you want to handle it, Mr. Officer. I've done nothing wrong. And he handcuffs me and says, no, we're not going into your apartment at all. And I'm like, oh, why don't we send Alicia in? And he goes, nope, not going to let her do it either. I'm keeping my eye on both of you. And I'm thinking, what the hell?
Seriously.
There is no justification for this. I have direct proof that that officer refused to let me go get or send somebody to go get with him. I even said he could straight up lead us. I didn't mind, but he just refused. And he handcuffs me very harshly and literally shoves me into the back of the car and takes me to jail. At which point, the entire trip, I'm sitting there going, this is a flaw. You need to call the Socorro police right now because I purposely got this dismissed. I have proof of it and you refuse to let me get it. And he's going, well, the Socorro police office is closed, so we can't contact them until the morning. How is that my problem? I have proof, and I told him, if you want to come back in the morning and rearrest me if I have no proof, fine. But I do. And he wouldn't hear any of it. So he takes me into the jail, and I have to sit in a holding cell right across from a guy who is busted with some sort of drugs, who is crying his eyes out and then cursing like a sailor at the cops in there for the fact that him and his girlfriend were not stored together in the same cell together. And he just thought this was such an egregious injustice. And so I had to sit in there for approximately 2.5 hours, if not longer, for a crime I didn't even commit. It was absolute bullshit.
I'll say, that was such a crazy night. When my chi was put in the police officer vehicle, the officer told me that if I want to bail my chi out, I have to go get a money order and then go to the station. So I was driving around all over town because I never got a money order before. Like, first I had to, find an ATM and withdraw some cash. And then I just barely made it to a mini mart that does money orders pretty late at night, but they were like 10 minutes away from closing. And then I drove to the police station and I was able to bail my chi out. It cost 200 clams too.
And the worst part is, none of that got refunded. I never got an apology. And when they actually did contact the Socorro Police Department, as I told them to, their response basically boiled down to, oh, it looks like the Socorro Police Department did have the paperwork on file and just forgot to file it. It actually fell behind the desk. So I was literally arrested for paperwork falling behind a desk.
Unbelievable. So yeah, that was a bad night. Sorry you had a lot more stories on your end than mine overall. That sucks. Anyway, thanks for hearing out our crazy cop stories from our end. Overall, just want to share, good times, but doing all this craziness in 2020, really hard to feel that way at the moment. But hopefully things will get done and be taken care of, and hopefully things get back to normal and have some more good times again. But yeah, thanks for hearing out our 2 cents with the cop craziness that happens to be going on lately. So yeah, hope to catch you around next time. Ciao!